Welcome to the How to Play video for Untold, Adventures Await. I'm Michael and I'll be guiding you through setting up and playing the game. Pretty much anything can happen in Untold as you create episodic adventures that take place over the course of 5 separate scenes, each filled with thrills and spills, danger and, most of all, exciting adventure. Using a combination of Rory story cubes, reaction cards, and your imagination, you will become the heroes of your own story. Think of Untold as your favourite TV series that's made up of different episodes, except rather than watching, you control the action. Scenes are an important part of any episode. They move the story along, so they need a little explanation before we go into the main rundown. Every episode begins with the heroes, that's you and your fellow players, facing off against some kind of danger. Once you know what you're up against, you'll create your heroes and you'll tackle the danger. Think of this as the bit of the episode before the title sequence where you think everything is going to be fine. Once we cut back to where you think you might have solved the problem, an intrigue scene card is revealed that will add depth to the danger that wasn't immediately apparent. Shortly afterwards, you'll come face to face with a confrontation where things will certainly heat up. Suddenly, a major revelation appears, and the heroes will be catapulted towards the final epic showdown. Okay, ready to become the stars of your own show? Well, let's get things started. Place the board in the middle of the table and make piles of the 5 different scene card types. You should have 6 each of danger, intrigue, confrontation, revelation, and showdown, which you're going to need to shuffle up, then take 1 of each and put them face down on the spaces of the same colour on the board. The rest of the cards can go back to the box because you won't need them for this episode. You also need to shuffle up the deck of reaction cards and place those face down near the board. Give each player a hero sheet and make sure that one player also has the adventure journal. You're going to need this for the beginning and the end of each episode that you're about to play, but it can be handy to have while you're playing just so you can keep notes. Each player also receives a set of toolkit cards. The wild card, which can represent any symbol in the game should you so choose. The flashback card, which allows you to pull a bit of a story from before the episode into play. The and card, which allows you to supplement a story idea that you've had onto another player's concept. Redirect, which informs the other players that you would like the story to go in a different direction. And upvote, which you use to show other players that you really like what they're doing. Finally, you're also going to need some story cubes, so take a set of 9 of them and you're ready to play. Now it's time to decide where your episode will take place. Players should discuss where the action's going to happen and how the world that you're experiencing works. Think about the time period the story is happening in and whether there is magic or technology, or maybe even both. There's a section on the adventure journal marked before episode that you'll need to fill out, so answer the questions that you'll find there and they'll help you establish the rules of your world. You don't need to go into a lot of detail, just enough to bring it to life in your imagination. One thing you do need though is a name, so come up with something thematic to describe your newly created world. As you can see for this adventure, we're heading off to Space Station A3X. Okay, we're ready to begin playing. Now, you'll notice that you haven't created any characters yet, but don't worry, that is going to happen shortly. First of all, you need to see what you're going to be dealing with. So, flip over the first scene card marked Danger. This represents the opening of the episode, and it's time to roll those 9 story cubes. You'll now place some of those face-up icons that you rolled on the marked spaces of the Danger card, and using those in combination with each other will start your story. Each space on the card only has room for 1 story cube, so choose wisely. And don't be afraid to think laterally when coming up with ideas for your episode. You should be able to make a simple sentence that places you and your fellow heroes in a dramatic situation. So, let's give it a go. As mentioned, the first thing you need to do is flip the Danger card. Once that's done, it's time to break down the symbols you'll see on the scene card itself. At the top, you'll see a space for a location. That's then followed by the threat. And then there are a couple of icons that will tell you what's happening in this scene. In this case, the question mark represents something or someone, and the sword represents the fact that they're being attacked. Of course, we don't know who or what this is yet, so we have to roll the story cubes in order to find out. After rolling the story cubes, the group decides that the action is going to start in the space station's control tower. Meanwhile, the threat is coming from a group of newly recruited soldiers, represented here by the L plate. All of the symbols that you'll find on the scene cards throughout the game can be looked up on this handy reference card, meaning that you'll always know what's going on as you play your game. Now, with the danger established, it's time to create your heroes. When you're coming up with your heroes, you have a couple of options. You can either roll the remaining 7 story cubes for inspiration, or you can create your character from your own imagination. Whatever you prefer, you should consider the danger that you are facing. Then fill out the different spaces on your personal hero sheet. They're going to need a job or a role and an aim that you will eventually want them to achieve. You should also note where the episode is taking place, and these will all give you a hand when thinking about how your hero deals with the challenges that they'll be facing. Next, you need to choose some starting attributes. These can be an amazing ability or power, a helpful item, or an area that your hero is an expert in. When you're first coming up with a hero, you can only choose 2 of these 3 things, and they have to be different. So, an item and an ability, for example. These choices can be pretty much anything, but try to come up with ideas that will make the episode interesting, rather than a massively overpowered device or magical item that will solve all of your problems. Finally, it's time to give your hero a name and see how they handle things. With my brand new hero sheet, I decide that my character is going to be in the entertainment business. Taking the Theatre Mask story cube, I declare that they're going to entertain people in a travelling show. Why is my hero doing all this travelling? Well, they eventually want to reach the Andromeda star system. I already know that the action for this episode will take place on Space Station A3X, so I fill out that on the sheet as well. Next, it's time to choose my starting attributes, and by choosing the lock symbol on a story cube, I decided that I'll be an expert in opening locks of all kinds. For my second attribute, the lightning bolt tells me that I have the ability to control electricity. All in all, I sound like a force to be reckoned with, and quite amazing, so I decided to put that in my name. Please welcome the amazing Andretta. The best way to find out more about a situation in Untold is to ask questions, and you'll see that some of the scene cards have a question mark icon next to a number. This represents the amount of questions that you can ask as a group in order to get more information about what's happening in a scene. They should be open-ended, beginning with the classics: who, what, why, where, when, or how. And whatever question you ask, you should roll all the remaining story cubes, then use the face-up icons to come up with an answer. Anytime you ask a question in Untold, you roll any story cubes that aren't currently on a scene card and construct your answer from the face-up icons that appear. In the case of our danger scene, we might want to find out who or what the trainee soldiers are attacking. Looking at these icons, it could be a race of giant bugs that are invading the space station, represented by the bee. It could be the space station security force, represented by the scales of justice. Whatever your question, every roll inspires answers that will further your story. Wherever you can, include specific names and descriptions in your answers. This is going to help your fellow players understand exactly what you've got in mind. Remember, you are looking to bring the story to life as much as possible. Now that you've asked your questions, it's time to deal with the threat from the scene. Like with questions, you have a limited amount of actions you can perform as a group. Also, you don't need to go in a specific order. Players can do their actions whenever they please, but remember to share things out pretty evenly. It's good to make sure that everybody gets involved. To take an action, just tell the other players what you would like to achieve. If you can boil it down to a simple sentence, that is even better. Think of structuring your action as I try to by or I want to by You aren't limited to just your attributes and abilities, remember. Your hero can do whatever you can dream up. You then flip the top card of the reaction deck to discover what happens in response to the statement you've just made. These cards represent how someone or something in the scene reacts to what you're attempting to do, and it doesn't need to be a hero. It can be anybody in the current scene. So, let's have an example. Let's say that through our questions, we've discovered that the soldiers are indeed attacking the space station security force. We want to put an end to this fighting, so the amazing Andretta decides that she's going to use her power over electricity to switch out the lights. Revealing the top card of the reaction deck shows a not exactly happy face, which I can interpret in several different ways. This could be the look on the face of the captain of the security team, who is unhappy because she can't see anything thanks to a blackout caused by Andretta. This could also be the reaction of one of the soldiers, unhappy because he can no longer see to aim. Or it could be Andretta's reaction, realizing that her electrical powers aren't quite as amazing as first thought. This result sounds more fun to me, so I decide that's what's going to happen in the story. Because my attempt to use Andretta's ability wasn't successful, I also choose to mark that ability as impaired on my hero sheet. As the episode progresses, I can still attempt to use that power, but I'll have to remember that it's not working correctly. It's sometimes better for the characters to face problems of their own, as well as major threats as we try to enrich the story. Maybe Andretta's ability will return to its full power before the end of the episode. Once your group has used up all of the actions for the scene card, or you've chosen to stop because you don't have to use them all, it's time to move on to the next part of the episode. Whether you've managed to deal with a threat successfully or not, you will always move on to the next scene card, because in Untold, the action never stops. Now that you've worked your way through the danger scene card, the rest of the journey will play out in a pretty familiar fashion. Flip the next scene card, in this case it's the intrigue scene, and then roll all the remaining story cubes that aren't on the danger scene card. You'll see that this scene card is a little bit different. There's only one space, but you need to choose a story cube to add to that card that will help you learn about the intrigue that you and your fellow heroes have now uncovered. You'll see that these spaces are linked together, meaning that one has an effect on the other. Don't forget, you use a combination of the icons on both the chosen story cube and the scene card to find out what's happening, so keep your imagination firing. Let's go through what happens when we flip the intrigue card. First of all, you should check to see what the symbol means by referring to your reference card, and in this case, it looks like we're going to be dealing with an evil ally. But who are they allied to? If you look at this link, you'll see that it attaches to the question mark on the danger scene card, and you'll recall that we established that represented the space station security force. Maybe they're not so good after all. Now, we should find out who this ally is, and again, we roll the story cubes and choose one of them to represent this space. Using the clock face icon, I've decided it's going to be a time traveler from the far distant future. Once the space has been filled with the story cube, you can see that it's time to ask 3 more questions and continue the episode. Again, you'll have the opportunity to find out more later in the episode. The purpose of the intrigue scene is to create more questions than answers, and it thrusts our heroes directly into their next scene, the confrontation. In this scene, you and your fellow heroes travel to a new location to address the intrigue you discovered through the previous card. Again, you work through the scene card in the same fashion. Reveal the scene card. Roll any remaining story cubes to generate what's happening in the scene. Learn more about what's happening by asking questions. Move the story on by performing actions if they're available. What's really interesting about the confrontation scene card is that you can choose to bring characters from earlier on in the episode back to cause more mayhem. Anytime you see a space of the same colour as one from a previous scene card, an old friend or foe can reappear, or you can bring someone or something absolutely brand new into the mix. The choice, as ever, is yours, but keep in mind that reintroducing a previous threat or story element can really make for a richer episode. Once you've come up with your questions and answers and performed your actions for the confrontation, it's time to jump onto the next scene, the revelation, whether things are looking bleak or bright for your heroes. In the revelation scene, you discover what was driving your foe during the confrontation, what's motivating them to act the way that they do. This should be a big reveal. After all, the scene card is called Revelation, and it should be one of the most dramatic moments of the episode. Like in the intrigue scene, this is a time for information only. All the action will take place during your epic showdown. Okay, it's time for the big finish, where the heroes travel once more to put an end to the plot that has been unveiled throughout the episode. As this is the end of the episode, you're going to be facing off against not just one, but two separate threats. And to tie the whole story together, we suggest that you bring back one from a previous scene, as well as introducing something new. You'll also notice that the showdown has no time for questions. This is an all-action conclusion to the episode, which you should try and make as memorable as possible. Now remember, you don't always have to succeed. Not every ending needs to be a happy one. Not every battle needs to see the heroes victorious. In fact, a lot of the time, the story can be more fun if you and your fellow players have some major adversity to get through over the course of a few episodes. With that in mind, once the showdown is complete, there's a bit of housekeeping to take care of before you roll the credits on this episode. No matter what the outcome, the heroes of the story will have made an impact on this world. When you finish the showdown, you should fill out the sections of the adventure journal marked after episode. You should mention the significant people and places that you've encountered during the episode, and you should also write down how the world has changed as a result of your efforts. Also, have a think back about any loose storylines that didn't get tied up, and put those down too. You never know, they might provide inspiration for returning characters in future episodes. Thanks for watching the How to Play video for Untold. If you've got any questions, you can contact us via email, through our Twitter, our Facebook page, or head over to BoardGameGeek.com and check out the Untold listing there. Let us know how your adventures turn out, and as ever, enjoy playing the game.